Welcome to What I Wish I Knew at 30, the podcast where we get real about life, business, resilience, and everything in between. I'm Fran Harper, and if I could go back and have a chat with my 30-year-old self, well, let's just say that would be quite an interesting conversation. If you're listening, chances are you're ambitious, driven, and trying to figure out this wild ride we call life. And let me tell you, you're not alone. The guests that I bring on, we go through the highs, the lows, and everything in between, so we can all learn from their experiences. And today, I have an amazing guest with me, Mr. James Parks. And before I introduce James personally, I'm just going to go through a little bit of James's background, which I'm sure he'll either correct me on or will add to a little later. So, former English rugby union player, former Saracens, Gloucester, and Leeds hooker. Am I right so far?
Or say spot on so far.
Spot on so far. Awesome. 9 years as head of Exeter Chiefs Strength and Conditioning, and I think fair to say part of Rob Baxter's backroom staff since 2012.
Yeah, so, and I didn't lead that, but I was super fortunate to be the lead S&C coach behind the performance lead, a guy called Mark Twiggs. So now very, very fortunate to have 9 brilliant years there previously.
Fantastic. And the Chiefs are just one of my favourite teams as well. So James has now swapped his life from overseeing the daily demands of 60 plus professional rugby players for that of venturing into his new business, a corporate wellbeing platform aimed at assisting employees' physical and mental health in the workplace, Myday. So is there anything I missed there, James?
Oh, no, it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much, Fran. And I really appreciate you having me on. I'm looking forward to seeing if I can remember 30, first and foremost. But no. So that's generally the gist of it. Really blessed to have had 21 years in professional rugby. And as with all these things, I'm sure we'll cover some of it, but the people you meet and the experiences you get to gain far outweigh any of the highlights, I guess. But yeah, absolutely amazing time to be involved in Exeter, and consequently the friends I've made and people I got to meet in my playing days are still my dearest friends now. So I feel really, really fortunate to have had that time, and now looking at how I can take those experiences and hopefully deliver something more impactful for a wider number of people.
Can you hear my dogs going off in the background?
Oh yeah, so they want to chat too.
So you can tell that we're live and real.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
We're going to dive into the hard-earned lessons, the mistakes that turned into gold, and the wisdom that we wish we all had at 30. So grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's get into it. So James, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Fran.
Was there anything else that I actually missed in that introduction, or you're quite happy with?
Father and husband, they're definitely my most important roles, and ones that I get wrong more than I get right, but I keep trying and keep learning. So as with parenting, it always changes. It never stays the same. They learn and develop so much so quickly and bring you different challenges so regularly, and that is from relationship through to reality with the kids, I think, and also with, let's say, in my case, my wife. So that's definitely my the job I'm most proud of, and the one that I try and get right. But let's say you never get it perfectly right. But no, that's the other bit that I spend a lot of time, put a lot of effort into.
Yeah, and you know what? That's all we can do. Kids certainly don't come with a handbook. I've brought 5 of them up, and
amazing.
There were times when I thought, we did brilliantly, and there were other times when I thought, oh my goodness, we really missed the mark there. How did that happen? You think they're all brought up the same because you're in you're in that relationship but they're all different. Nature, nurture.
Yeah, so we've got 5-year-old twins along with a 7-year-old daughter, and the twins, literally from the moment that they lay down in the cot next to my wife and myself in the hospital, they were different, and they were night and day. And so we've got a boy and a girl for twins, and then an elder girl, and the elder girl and the boy twin are most similar personality types, and then Stella is, say, a force of her own, like just does her own thing, which is amazing, right? But it's exactly that. There is the nature and the nurture, but they certainly both are involved in forming who they are going to be.
So who does she take after then?
We're still not entirely sure.
Okay. Well, 50% of both of you, so one can't blame the other. It's just the way it is.
It might be square rooted with her. I'm not sure. Of
I love that. So, James, let's get started.
course.
Imagine we're jumping in a time machine right now. You're
hmm
30 years old again. Where are you? What are you doing? And what's going through your mind at that stage?
Yeah, when I was 30, I was working in Leeds. Not long, say, finished my undergrad, started my master's degree, and was trying to. I say I wasn't married in a relationship, and I was soaking up everything I could from my strength and conditioning life.
Mm,
And I'm pretty fortunate. I've got a pretty consistent outlook. I really enjoyed all of those experiences. I loved living in Leeds. We had brilliant. I got to meet some amazing players and coaches, and it was just that very say I always feel hugely grateful for the experiences that I had. So I don't think I wanted for much or had any particular outlook that I felt I needed to change, and I was sort of enjoying the journey. I think reflection, like I say, we've all got PhDs in hindsight, but I think I was
mm,
at the right time in the right place. So my playing career finished off the back of Stuart Lancaster. I remember, say, who was the ex-England coach now at Connacht, said,
mm,
Parksy, I'm called into the office, Parksy, 27 years old. You say you're getting older, you're becoming more expensive, and everybody else is getting better. And say we think there's a great opportunity for you. Would you like to go and coach? And I had to go and hang my ego up pretty quickly and consider what my longer term future might look like. And
mm.
I was quite early in that journey and had some great mentors that had come on board at Leeds. So all in all, I was say in a good place.
Sorry.
And enjoying learning, enjoying new experiences, enjoying trying to move, well, say move from player to coach. And so no, I was in a pretty good place then, I think.
So, did you feel you had life figured out at that point, or did you feel you were still, that you were still winging it?
Oh no, I like you never. I've never felt like I've got it figured out because it just changes, it can change so quickly and does change so quickly, and whether that be careers, relationships, family, health, all of these things are indicative of how we can turn up every day. And it can be so fragile. And we see examples of this around us all the time, how
Mm,
quickly things can move from, say, 0 to 100 without any warning whatsoever. So it's very much a case of knowing that you've not got it figured out, making sure you keep putting one foot in front of the other. I'm a big believer in having a North Star that you can point to and just make sure
well,
you're
mm,
sailing in that
yeah.
direction loosely, and that gives you the capability to develop, that gives you the capability to create momentum, it gives you that ability to be able to learn, and all of those things are incredibly important when we are trying to navigate life, because there's some things which without a shadow of a doubt we know will impact all of us, and that's our health,
Mm,
our relationships, and our ability to continue learning. And then outside of that construct, I think the rest of it is vastly changeable. But if you can keep your focus on your health, your relationships, your work, those three
mm.
big buckets, and know you can't have them all full all the time, but at some stage you need to make sure that you address all of them. That will give you the capability to move forward.
No, I think that's absolutely true, and that's wonderful. And what was your biggest dream at that time, at 30?
It's a really good question, and I'm not sure I know. It was probably based around trying to make sure that I was working towards being able to have the capability to create a long-term future for myself, my mum, and looking to work towards some more financial stability. And I still haven't achieved that now by a long way, but say being based in the knowledge that that was what I'd working towards, because that wasn't what I was fortunate enough to have when I was younger,
Mm,
and be able to give mum something back on top of what it was that she'd been able to do for us by bringing us over to the UK and giving us the say everything we ever needed or ever wanted. Like we
mm.
never wanted for anything, but it was always those things. So say a loving home, food on the table, and an environment to be able to go and explore and be ourselves.
Amazing. That's fantastic. Did life take you where you expected?
From when I was 30 till now,
Mm,
no, I'd probably say not. In terms of, I always had a loose sort of desire to do something a little bit more impactful, a little bit more. I'm the biggest believer in human beings, that we can do absolutely anything given the right environment and circumstances. And
Yeah.
the world, say, as with all these things, the world owes us nothing, and it's all within our own hands, and we've got to go and do and have the actions that lead to that. And I think that
Yeah.
I always wanted to try and figure out how to be able to maximize my potential. And that's probably been based around the fact that I've had to figure that out as I go. And
Yeah.
as you alluded to earlier, I've spent the last 4 years trying to figure this business proposition out, and it's changed, say, 4 or 5 times in
No.
that four
No.
year period. But now we're really starting to hit the mark, and all of those things come from having that capability to be open minded, to listen to others, but to take the actions to go and learn. And I think
Mm.
that probably then coming all the way back around to your question is, it's definitely not exactly where I thought I'd be. It's not exactly where I thought I'd be 4 years ago when I started, but I would also say that the potential has grown vastly in that time scale. So
Yeah.
where I wanted to be, no. Where I needed to be, yes.
I love that. I love that. Absolutely. And looking back now, what's something you were completely wrong about at 30?
Oh, goodness. So where to start and where to finish? So much. I think
Really?
that's always right. We're wrong every day, but say being being wrong, they're the greatest gift, because from that we can learn, and if we can learn, we can
Mm.
improve and change and make sure we've got that ship sailing towards that North Star. Specific things that say the business would be easy, that I would be. Well, I guess my ambitions as a strength and conditioning coach were to head up an international team. That never happened. In a business sense, it would be that, say, would be wildly profitable in 4 years. That's definitely not happened.
Paper budgets are a wonderful thing.
Oh yeah, exactly that. And also the fact that the I always say to people, like, life's a rite of passage, and you only get to move to the next level when you complete the one you were on, and you can only do that
Yeah.
by say going out and getting experience, finding mentors. The only real life hack is doing it, and then finding great people that want to support you along the way. So
Mm.
yeah, I've been wrong on a daily basis, wrong with assumptions, but right with effort.
Absolutely. I was about to say that's one thing that I don't think anyone can ever cross you with, the fact that you've been so consistent and you've continued, you've kept going. 4 years on, you're still here, and as you said, the momentum is building, and that's wonderful to see, because I think what you're doing and is so needed in so many corporations.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. And my favorite saying with it is always, stay alive long enough to be successful. And there is so much of that, as long as you continue to learn. And regarding the proposition, like, I've had to figure out, you need to, as we spoke about before the show, you need to have the wisdom, or not even wisdom, have the knowledge that whatever you do, it has to be absolutely related to the bottom line of a business, and you've got to be able to show them that it's got to be related to generating revenue. Otherwise, when the hard time comes, you'll be out the door, and when
Yeah.
the good times are there, they'll pick you up again. And that's not something that's going to create a sustainable long-term business.
No, you're right. And that is something that so many people coming into business don't understand, that 80% of your time within a business really has to be spent in that 80% of what I call, like in my coaching, we call it the MMR, which is the money making revenues, because you've got to be there, because the rest of it becomes, all the programs, everything else are superfluous if you don't have anyone to sell it to.
Yeah, exactly that.
It's
And the other thing is also finding the right people who've got the problem that you're trying to solve for.
yeah.
And then how long are your sales cycles? What is your customer acquisition cost? All this stuff. I'd never even heard of these words 4 years ago, but
No.
the longer you're in it, what's the lifetime value? The longer
Yeah,
you're in it, the more you realize how important the detail is, and the
yeah.
devil is certainly in the detail. And without it, you are at the behest of macroeconomic shifts. You're at,
Mhm,
say,
mhm.
and all of these things are just not things that are going to make you investable as a business, because you need to be something that is going to be needed no matter what.
Yeah.
and being able to make that shift, I think, is wildly important. And I did not understand that, and I wish somebody. This is another funny one is that I find is I say I wish somebody had told me, but the reality is that it's not somebody telling you, it's you going and doing and figuring it out. It's
Yeah.
sometimes the difference between you can have somebody help you along the way, but until you feel that yourself, it just doesn't hit the same.
No, that's right. And you have to go through that learning curve for you to be aligned in what you're actually selling and what you're heading up. And as you go through that, so your confidence will build, your momentum will build, and everything that goes along with it. But you're right. Those are the things that people don't tell you at the beginning when you're putting your business plan together and things, just how bloody hard it is to maintain a sustainable business.
But I also think that, and say consequently on top of that, but once you do figure it out, it is like a bit of there is a formula. And
Yeah.
once you learn the formula, it's difficult to unsee. But as you
Yeah.
rightly said, if you don't go through it yourself, it doesn't matter. People can talk to you till you're blue in the face, but that naivety, I think, is almost your superpower,
Yeah.
because without it, you'd never get started. And as we then go back to action creates information, information creates opportunity.
Yeah. And it keeps that, I think as well, being naive going into something like this, is it keeps that curiosity. So
Yeah,
you have to keep looking at it. You have to keep, having that growth mindset, which obviously you need from rugby and all of the strength and conditioning and everything else that, so many things change. But really having that ability to keep an open mind, but as you say, still follow that North Star, to make sure that you're moving in the right direction.
absolutely. And I think if you didn't have that, there wouldn't be people that would back you,
No, no.
which is definitely goes on top of that. As I say, you wouldn't have the investors being willing to step up and
Yeah.
be a part of what you're doing and trying to create something that's, say, going to hopefully leave a positive impact on the world.
Because let's face it, if you don't believe in it and you're not
Yeah.
consistent with it, why would investors be?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. No, you're absolutely spot on without a shadow of a doubt.
So, James, they say life is the best teacher, and sometimes the lessons come wrapped in disaster. So, let's talk about the biggest curveball that's been thrown at you, whether it was in business, relationships, personal growth. What was the one experience that at the time felt like the worst thing ever, that actually ended up being probably one thing that shaped you?
And I thought about this, say previously when you said there's a couple. There's a couple related to injury, i.e., say
Mm.
getting injured just at the wrong time, being given an opportunity, selected ahead of somebody who was ahead of you in the pecking order, pulling your hamstring in the warm of the game, not getting the opportunity. I remember prior to the 2000, hang on, let me think, 2003 World Cup, I'd say the international hookers were away. First game, I went into a scrum, mistimed, hit the opposition hooker's shoulder and prolapsed two discs in my neck, and that changed the whole
Oh,
opportunity, which was exactly what I was, as to say. I thought that was the time for me to be able to really deliver on the promises that I had for myself in terms of moving up a pecking order, creating opportunity. And I like that those were heartbreaking, but what they teach you is get back up, go again, and life continues no matter what. And it doesn't matter how long you feel sorry for yourself. It doesn't matter, excuse me, it doesn't matter what's happened, that the world keeps spinning and the days
yeah,
keep passing. So you can either make a conscious decision to get the most out of it and
yeah,
rehab as well as you can and get back in the mix, or you can feel sorry for yourself and lose time and energy. That's definitely one. The other is just how important the people you surround yourself with are,
yeah,
and the capability to be really hyper aware of the people around you and what that impact allows is, say, astronomical. And I've always been really fortunate to be latterly supported by amazing people. But I remember a point in time where I started to do some work with our physio, and he he said to me, he's like, "Why do you always talk yourself down? Why do you always say talk about the negative things?" I'm like, "Well, I want to get better." And he worked really hard on um, Michelle. I know. Caroline Dweck. Is it the growth mindset?
yeah.
and and about the impact of that. And he actually used a book called The Secret to talk about manifestation. Now, I don't necessarily believe in manifestation as just think about it and it will happen, but
Yeah.
the thoughts related to our mind and our reticular activating system, and understanding that our body has sees 30,000 things a day, and will only take in the things it sees as important. And if we start thinking about the things that are important to us, how the brain starts to see more of that in the world outside, and then that creates opportunity. And being able to bring together our psychology, what we want, and deliver that with a growth mindset has a huge impact on how the world then looks back at us. And it's not wishy-washy, it's like definitive science in terms of, say, our body recognizes fear, our own name, and things we believe are important. So being able to
Mm.
frame that and know exactly, again, this North Star, what is it you're trying to
Yeah.
achieve? Who can help you? Why is that important? And then offering value to the world has a huge compounding effect over a course of time.
Mm.
Those things are, so those are probably the biggest shifts in my world, and they sort of all happened one after another and have been the biggest impact. I genuinely believe if I'd had a more positive outlook earlier and understood the levers which our mind uses to shape our reality earlier, I
Mm.
would have probably optimized more of my potential playing. But
Mm.
without that journey, I wouldn't have been able to get to where I am now. So understanding
Yeah.
the role of the people we surround ourselves with, how they then shape what we believe is important, what that then does to lead into what it is we're trying to achieve, and what is important in our own everyday world is massive. So that those the bringing together of science and nuance in terms of delivering our own reality, I see as hugely important.
Absolutely, because it actually it controls what we focus on. And
Yeah,
as we all know, we're, as a society, we're amazing at knowing what we don't want.
yeah,
We're amazing at being attracted to the negative. I mean, look at the news, look at the things which, that everybody watches the news. It's not good news.
no,
It's everything is negative, and that's exactly what's brought into it. And, and we are masters at that. I know within my own coaching, when you ask people, what do you want? There's almost a or quite often a stunned silence because people actually haven't thought about that. They can tell you everything with great embellishment as to what they don't want, but not the other way. And it's a very interesting thing, that being able to really use the mind and stay in a positive place so that you can actually focus on the positive and not the negative. But so many of us actually attracted to the negative, um, which, I guess in some respects shows through society and the amount of mental health issues that are being experienced throughout the world.
and it's that fight or flight, right? The body's always trying to protect
Mm.
us from fear. What is it that we're trying to protect ourselves from? Whereas previously on the savannah, that was a lion that would kill you. Nowadays, it's
Mm.
slow drip of continual stress related nuances, which aren't actually going to
Mm.
kill us, but we still then focus on them and think that
Yeah,
they're offering value to our safety, but they're not.
they're
So
actually
they
not.
just become
No,
drains on our hormonal system.
not exactly. So if you could go back and whisper advice to yourself, in that moment back at 30 and that, what would you say?
So I think excuse me, it comes back to that biggest piece of advice again of understand the influences on your life, know where you want to go,
Mm.
and like say get after it and start utilizing action to create information, and make sure that you've got a real clear vision of where you want to be and why you want to be there, and figure out how to get there.
Yeah, and would you say that, those challenges back then really changed the way that you approach success today?
I think everything's like evolution, not revolution, tends to be the reality of how life unfolds. But
Mm.
I think you can impact your evolution by understanding what you're trying to evolve into. I think we always say another one of my favorites is like all change starts with awareness. So being
Mm.
aware enough to understand what it is you're doing today that maybe isn't serving you, and being able to look at what you want to and where you want to go and what you want to get to, is the most important thing, because if we understand it, we can start putting a plan together to change it, and then we can set our environment up to support the changes that we want to influence, whether that be, say, health,
Mhm.
relationships, or work,
Mhm.
any of those buckets, or all
Or
three
all
of
of
them,
them.
depending.
Absolutely. So if you could give your 30-year-old self just 3 pieces of advice, what would
Mm.
they be?
Oh, be kind, like always be kind to yourself and to others.
Mm,
Well, so I always say I write a blog most weeks, and I've actually haven't done for a couple of weeks. I've missed it, but I always say life is full of magic if you know where to look. And
yeah.
I think there's a big piece around gratitude there, and being grateful is hugely impactful on our worldview. And if we understand that nobody's life is perfect, and the old saying, if everybody threw their problems into the middle of the room, you'd soon run and get yours back, is really, really
I like
valuable,
that.
and
Like that.
is really valuable. And being able to give yourself that reflective practice, however you do that, whether it be through writing your own things or through just being able to take some time to think about what it is you're grateful for, and
Mhm.
what there is in the world that you can appreciate. That already starts that positive cycle in our minds when we talk about that reticular activating system again. I think that's
Mm,
really important. And then if we so be kind, so be grateful, and understand that that say there is magic around us, even when life just feels absolutely awful and we're at our worst. Find a way to
mm,
reflect on positive things. I guess lastly, and potentially a bit of a niche comment, but like, just go and get after it. Go and find something that, say, pops your cork and lights your fire and gives you
yeah.
that ability to be able to go and make the most of life. And everybody's personality types are different, and we know
Mm,
that. And there's personality say testing, and not everyone's say like me, and I'm pleased about that. But whatever it is that you enjoy, and whether that be managing other people, whether that be being in the detail, whatever that is, find a way to support that, and
mm.
find a way to make sure that you can fill your own cup up, whether you're introverted or extroverted. Like, find something that really works for you. And again, that comes back to, say, for me, that awareness piece, to find a way to be aware, and whether that's writing or listening or coaching or mentoring or being coached, all of those things I think are really, really valuable.
I do too, and I think it's amazing. You know, when you're really passionate about what you're doing, it's so easy to kind of keep building momentum and keep finding new things and stay curious about what's going on. And the amount of information that we have now available to us is phenomenal. You know, but when you're passionate about it, going down those rabbit holes and pulling things back, as you say, and when you're loosely within that North Star and the true, but you know that it's your purpose, it's, I think, so much easier to keep moving forward and keep doing, what you do. How do you think, these days, obviously, it's sort of when you were growing up, when I was growing up, which is a long time ago, I mean, there weren't even phones around when of course, there were phones, but not, ones that were plugged into the wall.
Yeah.
And, you know, how do you think younger professionals and entrepreneurs today, do you think they struggle with the same things that I won't say we did because there's a few years between us, but or do you think they're facing a completely different world?
Well, I think there's a few different facets to that. Is like, technologically, we're in the midst of, say, the biggest developments in terms of technology processing that there ever has been. And I think the first, obviously, the arrival of the internet and search, and that was huge. But
Mm,
then, now that search has been hyper powered by the capability of AI, so I think technologically, of course, they're different, but it all comes down to, again, human principles, because humans will always be in charge of these things. We're always say we're well, at the moment, we're humans have to press a button to say yes, we'll buy it, or no, we won't. And
yeah,
so, keying into those things. So, as entrepreneurs, what is it we're trying to do is offer value to the world. And so, figuring out how we can offer value that's going to have an impact on other businesses' bottom line is huge. So I think that
yeah.
remains the same, of figuring that jigsaw puzzle out. Um, then, in terms of challenges, and again, I think they are dressed up differently, but related to the same biological principles, which is, like, if we talk about the health bucket of the three that I always say, try and manage my life around health, relationships, and work. That, say, the health bucket I think having an appreciation of what we are biologically predisposed and wired to live like. That doesn't mean go and live like a caveman, but making
No.
sure we have the capability to move regularly, eat well, and that doesn't mean
Mm.
have a diet or a fad, or it just means, say, be pragmatic around what you eat. Make sure there's color on your plate. Make sure that you, say, have some strong underlying principles to whether that
Yeah.
be your protein intake and the boring stuff, but be sensible. Like,
Mm.
don't say no to the blueberry muffin because you say think it's going to kill you, but I say contrarily, don't eat 4 of them a day. So I think, like, so move regularly, eat well, get good sleep. All of these things are still massively important and
Yeah.
are an important part of what is going to give people the capability to be able to make good decisions, act well, and deliver the value that they need to for the businesses. So I think in the challenges will be dressed up differently, but still have the same root causes. And
Yeah.
they'll be based around, as I say, our health, the relationships we keep, and being able to create value in the world. So, so yes and
Absolutely.
no. As you say, yes, no. Is it harder than ever? Absolutely. Like, we've
Mm.
got these distract us day to day.
All the time.
Different people say social media brings different challenges at different ages. How the brain develops based on the inputs it's put in. We
Mm.
talk again about the things we deem to be important, the things, if everybody in the world's telling you that perfect's possible but it's just not reality,
Yeah.
that's going to confuse our wiring as well. So they're different challenges dressed up in a different way from what we had, but are still related to the same foundational elements. And I think if we can move
Mm.
back towards some of those foundational elements, it will create the opportunity for people to build out that awareness of where they may be
Mm.
missing the mark. And maybe
Yeah.
it is because they're, and again, what comes from exercise is generally trying hard at something. I think doing hard things is really important. I
Yeah.
think, say, people talk about the notion around work-life balance, which is different based on different times of life, based on what it is you're trying to achieve, based on where you are, and context is so important to that.
Yeah.
But and that's where that accountability partner, I think, is a hugely valuable piece.
No, definitely. Definitely. And I think you're right. And fundamentally, your health and fitness journey is the foundation of everything because if you don't have that, and I know a lot that I do within my coaching really addresses that right in the beginning when I'm working with CEOs and things like that, because a lot of them have left that part and have, sort of forgotten or maybe never known how important that is and
Mm.
how important the nutritional side is. And then the mindset and everything else changes based on, that fitness element. And, it's so important.
Well, life's an ultra marathon, not a sprint. So
Mm.
if you leave any of those things behind, you'll pay for it at some point. So
Yes.
there's a sacrifice to everything we do, and if we sacrifice our health, it will certainly come back and get us. And similarly, our relationships.
That's
You've
totally
you've got to
true. I
make
can
sure.
talk to
Yeah.
that.
But yeah, you've got to make sure that you're filling all of those work,
Mm.
relationships, and health buckets with different at different volumes at different times, and understand that not all of them can be full at all times,
No.
depending on the cycle of life that you're in, and the stage of your business, and the stage of your work, the stage of your career, the stage of your family, the stage of your
Yeah.
health, the stage, all of these things.
Yeah.
And again, I think that context piece is wildly important and often overlooked. Like, people go, I can't sleep, I've got young kids. Like, great, find ways to nap with them. Say, understand that you're going to be tired. Know that in your relationship that's going to
Mm.
be a strain. So find a way to spend some time with one another without children. And similarly with our health. If you aren't willing to spend some time on your own being selfish, it will
Mm.
only remove from you being at your best when you're with the people you love most, which is also.
Absolutely. And I think as well, I think a lot of people actually do think challenge on this, but a lot of people do think that it's actually selfish, whereas in fact, it actually makes good sense. Because when
Yeah.
you look after yourself, then, the ability to look after everybody else around you is far greater.
It's the
But
oxygen mask on the plane, isn't it? So put your
absolutely.
oxygen mask on first before you help anybody else. Otherwise, you'll be no use to anyone.
No, exactly.
It's-
Exactly right. So what's the best advice you ever received and who gave it to you?
I think this is maybe something I've figured out, but and I don't know if it's the best advice, but it's certainly something that plays into a little bit of what we've spoken about, which is find a way. Like well, I'll start again. the hardest thing to be in the world is not yourself. And the
Mm,
thing that takes the least energy is being yourself. And there's so much that goes around that it's not easy to explain. But if you can find an environment where you're happy and comfortable being yourself, it will
mm,
just unleash an unbelievably powerful mechanism within you that allows you to do more than you say you could ever imagine. And I'm a big believer. People say, I said at the beginning, I think people can do the most amazing things. We're unbelievable and stronger than we could ever know, and more powerful than we could ever imagine. But that has to come from being ourselves and offering the world what we offer. And everybody's got unique,
mm,
amazing, fantastic capabilities to offer the world, but they don't necessarily understand that when they try to conform and fit in. So continue to find where you fit, and you'll be amazed at how much easier life becomes, I think. And I
mm.
think the older you get, that obviously becomes easier, and you just don't really care as much about what other people think,
Other
because that's
people
the
think.
reality. Yeah, well, that's the reality, right? Nobody cares as much as you think they do, other than yourself. And
Exactly.
the quicker you realize that. And funnily enough, the people always ask me, what's the one trait that you've recognized in the best rugby players that you've ever been, like the real world class ones? That they're just comfortable in their own skin, and they're
Yeah.
comfortable that they are who they are. And their ability to be able to do that means that they can channel so much more energy when the time is right into the
Mm.
things that really matter on the pitch. So yeah,
Yeah,
super
no,
interesting.
I think that's absolutely true, isn't it?
Well, yeah, well, it's all, as with all these things, it sometimes takes a while, but yeah, I'm getting there with. I'm certainly much more comfortable being myself and talking about the things I believe are valuable, and
Mm,
stand for something or fall for everything.
absolutely, and well done, because it's that fear of judgment that stops so many people achieving
So
what
true.
I mean, it's so, the the requirement for people to conform, and, to what you were talking about earlier, the values levels that, you can't go through one level until you can't go to the next level till you've been
Yeah,
through one level, but, a lot of people don't ever get through there because purely for that complete fear of being judged or what other people think of them. So I think that's, when you are comfortable in your own skin, and I think when you're, again, it comes back to that awareness piece, isn't it? But when you're aware of the values that you uphold,
yeah.
and a lot of people don't reflect on that. A lot of people live by the values their parents gave them, or their school teachers, or that whole conglomeration and collaboration of people around them at an early age. When you start to really work in this area and you look at values, you look at it's an incredible thing, I think, to be really clear in who you are,
I think,
because
yeah, and another thing that comes off the back of that, which is, like, people fear change, but life, death, taxes, and change are the only realities of, say, in life. And the capability to know that you're going to change and understand that that's a good thing, not a bad thing. Change
Mm,
and development are absolutely essential in optimizing who you become, because if you stay the same, you'll be the same. And all the same, say, gets you is exactly what you've got now. And if that's what you want, great. But if you want to move forward, you've got to understand that you're going to have to change. You're going to have to be somebody different. And that's not a bad thing. And we always say, oh, you've
yeah,
changed. Like, yeah, I have. And I'm proud of it.
yeah,
That should be the way that, but all too often, again, it's that societal pressure and norms to conform are often, it's often the people who don't conform that are the most successful. And whatever success
mhm,
means to you, whether that means um, being the best parent and stay at home dad, or whether that means you're somebody who is a life and soul of the party, or somebody that really enjoys cycling
mhm,
weekends, and you want to do the best job with that, like whatever it is, it doesn't
yeah.
have to be what somebody else's idea of, say, good or great is.
No, it's your own idea. I love that.
Mm,
So, we've covered the deep stuff. Now, let's have a little bit of fun. I'm just gonna hit you with some quick fire questions.
absolutely.
Okay, let's go. What's the worst business or life advice you've ever got?
People telling you it's a good idea and not paying for it.
Okay, awesome. I like that. Do you have an example of that, or
Yeah, well, I just want to say, when I started out early, people don't want to offend you, right? They want to tell you that what you're doing is great stuff, but the way that people can help you most is by being willing to pay for the value that you put out into the world. So they're better off telling you, no, that's not good. I've seen a million of these. Try
yeah.
something else, is far kinder than saying, yeah, great idea.
No, carry on your own.
Yeah.
If you could have Yeah, exactly. If you could have lunch with any historical figure, who would it be?
Uh, oh, historical. No.
Or anyone, doesn't have to be historical.
Yeah.
Who
Oh,
you'd
yeah.
have lunch with
I
anyone.
I think, yeah, I've got a Michael Jordan fascination. I think he'd be super interesting. Nelson Mandela, I think, would be amazingly interesting. I
Mm.
think I think Elon Musk, although there's a huge amount about him that there is to dislike, I think it would be incredibly interesting. I think
Mm,
those are sorts of people.
brilliant. And what's a guilty pleasure you refuse to apologise for?
Yeah, God, loads.
Just one.
No, as I say, chocolate, definitely. I love I love food generally, and I say I definitely I'm far from perfect when it comes to uh taste or what I eat. But yeah, that's definitely one that I'd say would be high up there. Say
Chocolate's a good
coffee.
thing.
Yeah, we'll say the one I ate last night wasn't, that's for sure. But yeah, no, that's probably one. I'm not too bad though. I'm reasonably consistent with what I do and turn up with.
Oh, that's good. If your 30-year-old self had a theme song, what would it
Mm.
be? Or what would it have been?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I know this, and it would probably be, well, why can't I think of it right now? Hang on, I'm going to have to look it up.
That's
Drops of
right.
Jupiter by Train. That's it.
Drops of Jupiter. I love that.
Yeah, by Train.
Great one. That's a great one. And why does that resonate with you?
For some reason, like my best mate and I, we drove from Devon to London back to work. For some reason, we listened to it on repeat for most of the way, and then it was just a favorite of the time. Reminds me of good times, and then was my wife walked down the aisle to it as well.
Oh, lovely. That's beautiful. Why did we used to do that? Why did we used to listen to the same song over and
Because we didn't
over
have
and
Spotify.
over? Oh, okay, yeah, that would be simple. I knew there'd be a simple reason, but like my albums that were just like on repeat, literally
Yeah.
on repeat.
But
Uh,
again, the same music's a great way for our brain to associate emotions and
yeah.
times and memory, so we can remember things as well.
Oh, it's true. I mean, we used to listen to, this shows how old I am, but we used to listen to the top 20 on a Sunday night.
Yeah.
My friends of ours, we used to sit by the telephone box and literally listen to dial a disc, and literally
Oh wow.
the phone would be hanging down, and we'd all be sat
Yeah.
on the floor of the. Oh, I can
Amazing.
smell it now.
Yeah. It is visceral, isn't it?
Oh yeah. So, what's one thing you absolutely sucked at in your 30s but have mastered now?
Um, uh, and I definitely wouldn't say mastered, but just being okay with everything, not being perfect all the time, knowing that that's probably a good way of summing it up. You can do anything, but you can't do everything. So
Yeah.
focus on something and know that there's going to be consequences of that, which is, yet say, some other stuff won't be so good at, say, a lot of the time, but understand that by focusing on something, that will give you the capability to be really good at something.
Brilliant. I love that. Now, the James, that was fantastic. We've come to the end of pretty much to the end of this episode. I just want to thank you so much for joining me today. It's been really good to just have a little trip down memory lane and just, a reflection on those things that, going back to 30. And I know so many listeners are going to resonate with, what we've talked about today with your story. Before we wrap up, let's just do a quick recap. And if you had to, or not if you have to, because I'm going to ask you to, what do you think is the single biggest takeaway that you would like people to remember from our conversation?
I think short framing is like life's really effing hard, right? So
Yeah.
give yourself a break, but that doesn't mean that you can't do incredible things. And to do incredible things, you got to know where you're going, and to know where you're going, you've got to spend some time thinking about it and make a bit of a plan. And that doesn't mean that every day and every minute is planned to the nth degree, but understand that, say, you can do anything, but you can't do everything. So find out what that anything is that you want to do, make a bit of a plan, get on and do it. No, it's not going to be perfect. Enjoy the ride, learn along the way, and just get out there and have a good crack at it. Because, say, tomorrow is, what does they say? Yesterday is gone, tomorrow is not guaranteed, but that's why they call today the present, because it's a gift. So make sure we enjoy the journey along the way as well.
I love that, James. Thank you so much. And for everyone listening, here's my challenge to you. Take one thing from today's episode and apply it to your life this week. Maybe it's reaching out to someone who can mentor you. Maybe it's finally taking that leap that you've been scared of. Whatever it is, as James says, take action. If this episode inspired you, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. And if you have a question or a topic you want me to cover in a future episode, send me a message. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for tuning in to What I Wish I Knew at 30. Thank you so much again to James Parks for joining me today. And remember, your best chapters are still ahead. So see you next time.